You think your intelligence is a gift, that if you just get smart enough, see clearly enough, understand deeply enough, life will finally make sense. But here you are, awake at 3 a.m. again. Your brain won't stop. You're replaying conversations, questioning choices, dissecting memories, imagining worst-case futures like it's a job you never asked for. You feel everything too deeply. You see patterns where others just see noise. You notice the lies people live inside, the fakeness, the fear, the pretending. And the more you notice, the more alone you feel. You didn't ask for this level of awareness. It just happened, slowly, quietly. And now, you can't go back. You can't unsee it. You can't unknow it. People call you gifted, sharp, insightful, but they don't see the cost. They don't feel how exhausting it is to think like this all the time, how it eats you alive from the inside, how your intelligence loops, analyzing, comparing, spiraling, until even the simple feels unsolvable. You start to wonder, maybe the real problem isn't the world, maybe it's you, too much, too intense, too awake for your own good. But you're not broken. You're just carrying a kind of mind this world doesn't know how to hold. And that's what this is about, because there's a part of you that knows. This overthinking, this disconnection, it isn't random. It's a signal, a symptom of something deeper, something you've never put into words. So stay with me, not because I have answers, but because I've been there too, through the sleepless nights, the silent rooms, the heavy awareness. And if you felt that weight, then you deserve to understand what it really is. Not a flaw, not a failure, but the burden of seeing too clearly in a world built on blind comfort. They say being smart is a blessing. They show you the highlights, inventions, awards, breakthroughs. They talk about geniuses like they're lucky, like their minds made life easier. But they don't talk about the rest of it. They don't talk about how many of those geniuses ended up broken, isolated, misunderstood, not because they were weak, but because the very thing that made them brilliant also made them vulnerable. Tesla died alone in a hotel room, feeding pigeons. Van Gogh saw the world in color no one else could, but couldn't escape his own mind. John Nash's brilliance came with a mind that turned against him. And Nietzsche, he saw too much for too long until his mind finally broke. We think high intelligence makes life clearer. Sometimes it just makes life heavier. There's research now that backs this up, that people with higher than average intelligence often deal with more anxiety, more rumination, more disconnection. It's not just emotional, it's neurological. The same parts of the brain that help you think deeply also keep looping those thoughts over and over until you can't shut it off. But nobody tells you that. They tell you your intelligence is a tool, a ladder, something that puts you ahead. But when you live with it, really live with it, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a mind that won't let you rest, like a constant hum you can't turn down. And over time, you stop feeling gifted. You just feel tired. You start wondering why nobody else seems to feel this way. Why people can laugh at small things and move on, while you're stuck analyzing a single conversation for days. Why everyone seems to belong somewhere, while you're always a few layers too deep. It makes you question yourself. Maybe you're overthinking. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe you're just not built for this world. But that's the lie. This isn't about you being broken. It's about the fact that the world only tells one story of intelligence, the one that wins prizes and solves problems, not the one that keeps people up at night, not the one that sees what no one else does and pays the price for it. The truth is simple. Intelligence isn't always a gift. Sometimes it's the hardest thing to live with. And until we admit that, the suffering just stays silent, hidden behind achievements, behind praise, behind the mask of someone who's got it all figured out. But you know better. You've felt the other side. And that's where this story really begins. Once you realize intelligence isn't just a gift, you start asking harder questions, like, why does thinking clearly hurt so much? Why does seeing the world for what it is leave you feeling more lost than found? That's where Nietzsche comes in. Most people quote him because the words sound deep. If you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. But for him, that wasn't just philosophy. That was personal. That was lived. He wasn't talking about darkness out there somewhere. He was talking about what happens in here when your mind starts pulling apart everything it used to believe. At first, intelligence feels like control. You spot lies, you question systems, you see through the stories people cling to. But eventually, it turns inward. You start questioning the meaning of everything, and when nothing holds up, not religion, not morality, not tradition, you're left in a kind of free fall. That's the abyss. Not some dramatic hole, just the quiet collapse of meaning. The moment your mind realizes that most of what keeps people sane is built on belief, not truth. And now you can't go back. You can't unsee how fragile all of it is. You look around and wonder how others stay grounded, how they still follow the script like it means something, how they can believe so easily. And you start to feel alone, not just socially, existentially. That's the cost of clarity. It's not just isolation. It's a kind of vertigo, like standing at the edge of something endless and realizing you're not sure what holds you up anymore. Nietzsche wasn't warning others about the abyss. He was trying to survive it. And if you've ever felt that hollow space where old beliefs fall away and nothing replaces them, then you know exactly what he meant. The abyss isn't poetry. It's what happens when your intelligence takes you further than your emotional foundations were built to handle. And the real danger isn't falling in. It's standing there too long with no one beside you.
Once you've seen through things, it gets hard to connect with people who haven't. You try, you nod, you smile, you keep conversations light, but there's this quiet distance you can't bridge. Because you're no longer just hearing what people say, you're noticing what they're avoiding. You see the fear under their confidence, the tension under their laughter, the things they don't say, the questions they won't ask. And the more clearly you see, the more alone you start to feel. It's not arrogance. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone. It's just, you're not on the same channel anymore. You're picking up signals other people don't even know exist. And after a while, small talk starts to feel painful, fake, empty. You're in the room, but not really. That's the loneliness I'm talking about. Not just being without people, but feeling like there's no one who gets what's going on in your head. No one who sees the world the way you do. And sometimes, you start to wonder if there ever will be. That kind of disconnection, it's not just emotional, it's physical. Brain studies show that rejection, isolation, feeling misunderstood, light up the same areas as physical pain. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It just knows it hurts. And the more your mind picks up, the more it hurts. Because you're not just aware of your disconnection, you're aware of everyone else's too. You can feel the gaps in communication, the roles people play just to survive, the masks. It becomes overwhelming. So you pull back. Not because you don't care, but because you can't pretend anymore. And the less you pretend, the more alone you become. Tesla lived in that space. So did Ramanujan. Minds that could see the future, but couldn't fit into the present. People celebrated their brilliance after they were gone. But when they were alive, most didn't know what to do with them. That's the unspoken part. When you see too clearly, people don't always see you back. And after enough silence, enough failed connections, you start to live inside your own head. It's safer there, but it's also colder. That's the trade-off. Clarity costs connection, and that's why this path is hard. Not because you're wrong, but because you're seeing things most people aren't ready to see. And that leaves you in a space few people can walk into with you. But you're not the first one here, and you don't have to stay in it forever. And when you're stuck in that space, isolated, thinking all the time, questioning everything, the mind turns inward. It doesn't stop. It doesn't rest. It loops. You start going over the same thoughts again and again. A conversation from 2 days ago. A mistake from years back. A choice you haven't even made yet. Your brain replays it, reanalyzes it, turns it over from every angle, like it's solving a puzzle that never ends. This isn't daydreaming. It's not just being thoughtful. It's exhausting. And you probably don't talk about it. Because how do you even explain it? How do you tell someone that your brain keeps dragging you through memories, fears, possibilities, without ever letting you land on anything solid? You're not imagining this. There's a name for it now, rumination, and it shows up more often in people with high cognitive ability. Not because they're weak, but because their minds are wired to keep connecting things, seeing patterns, questioning assumptions. That ability, the one that makes you sharp in a crisis, creative under pressure, it turns on you when there's no outlet. And at 3 a.m., when everything's quiet, that's when it hits the hardest. You lie there, eyes open in the dark, your body tired but your mind sprinting. You think about what you should have done differently, what someone meant by what they said, why you feel the way you do. You try to stop. You tell yourself to breathe, but the loop is already running. It feels like you're being pulled into your own thoughts. That's what makes this kind of mind dangerous if it's not managed. It becomes self-consuming. The intelligence that's supposed to help you navigate life ends up turning life into something you're constantly trying to solve instead of live, and you feel trapped because the same brain that's doing all this is the only one you've got. Van Gogh once said he put his heart and soul into his work and lost his mind in the process. That line always stayed with me because that's how it feels, like you're burning too hot, too long, like your own thoughts are eating the part of you that just wants peace. But the truth is, you're not crazy. You're just carrying a kind of intensity that doesn't shut off by itself. And if no one teaches you how to work with it, it will keep spinning until it breaks something inside you. But it doesn't have to end there. The same mind that loops can also learn how to land. And that's what we'll talk about next. Even if you start working with your mind, that doesn't mean the world suddenly makes sense. In fact, today's world makes it harder. We're constantly surrounded by noise, news, social media, opinions, disasters, all happening at once. And if you're someone who already thinks deeply, feels deeply, this level of input isn't just overwhelming, it's dangerous. You don't just see headlines, you see the systems behind them. You don't just hear someone's anger, you feel where it's coming from. And it doesn't stop. It's a non-stop flood of things your brain wants to understand, fix, carry. But you can't carry it all. That's the battle now, not just against overload, but against guilt. The guilt of knowing more than you can act on. The guilt of turning off your phone when you know something terrible is happening somewhere. You want to stay awake. You want to stay human. But you also want peace. And it feels like you have to choose. But you don't. Not if you start building structure. Not the kind the world gives you. The kind you give yourself. Start with what you let in. Curate what you consume. You're not weak for turning away from noise. You're wise for protecting your energy. Then, create your own framework, a way of thinking that helps you hold everything you know without drowning in it. For some, that's philosophy. For others, spirituality. For you, it might be something entirely your own. And most importantly, find your people. Even if they're not near you. Even if it's one person online who makes you feel understood. Connection isn't about quantity. It's about alignment. Find minds that think like yours, even if they're rare. And give your thoughts somewhere to go. Write. Build and create. Problem solve. Teach. Design. Whatever fits your mind best. Because if you don't direct your intensity outward, it turns inward. And that's when it gets destructive. This isn't about becoming normal. It's about staying sane without shutting yourself down. Because in a world that's louder, faster, and more chaotic than ever, the ability to stay grounded in yourself is a kind of rebellion. A quiet one, but powerful.
So here you are. You've seen too much, felt too much, thought yourself into exhaustion, faced disconnection, rumination, isolation, and somehow you're still here. That means something. It means your mind didn't destroy you, not completely, and that alone is proof that survival is possible, even with this kind of awareness. But survival isn't enough. The real turning point comes when you stop trying to escape your mind and start using it. Because intelligence, when carried with intention, can become something more than just sensitivity or speed. It becomes direction, power, not over others, but within yourself. It means deciding what to build with what you've been given, not in a perfect, polished way, just in a way that's real, consistent, grounded. You write, you question, you design, you help. You create frameworks that help others carry what they feel but can't name. You use your intensity not to dominate, but to illuminate, to offer structure in a world full of noise. You take the very things that once isolated you and turn them into bridges. That's the quiet redemption. Not because life gets easy, but because you no longer expect it to. You stop waiting to be understood by everyone. You stop needing approval from people who don't even know how to carry their own thoughts. You learn to live at your own depth. That's what Nietzsche was reaching for. Not just the abyss, but the dance that could come after, not just the chaos, but the form it could take. And maybe that's what this was all leading to. Not the idea that you're cursed for thinking too much, but that you were never shown how to use what you think, how to hold what you see, how to shape what you carry. So no, you're not broken. You're built differently. And now that you know that, you can start building something real with it. Not for validation, but because that's what minds like yours were made to do. And that's the difference. You're not here to fit in. You're here to see what others won't. You were never meant to be normal. You were meant to see further. But even seers need somewhere to stand. Your mind isn't broken. It's just too awake. Learn to carry what you see.